Murder survivors. How did you survive a murder attempt? A drug dealer attacked me with a crowbar in his house because I objected to him throwing his cat at the wall. He jumped on me, bit me, then ran out of the room. He returned moments later with a crowbar. I ran out of the house with no shoes. And I ran down the street. It's about a mile long, no houses. It runs in the middle of a field with an old monastery on it. He gave chase. With a knife. I was so unfit at the time it was horrific. Noon would stop their cars and help. I ran into the field to try and hide. Because I couldn't run anymore, I was stumbling down a little ankle-deep stream with no shoes on. I couldn't breath, and all I could hear was him closing in on me. The sound of the stream, my own breath and closing footsteps behind me in the middle of nowhere. I thought, if I don't get back on that road right now, I'm going to die here. I turned and made a run for the road. I got there and kept running. I couldn't breath. It was just adrenaline. I ended up bursting through the door of a rough-as-fuck awful little pub. The barmaid let me use the phone because I'd left my mobile in dealer's house. Everyone in the bar thought it was hilarious. The dealer burst in after me and told everyone I had just smoked weed for the first ever time and was freaking out, and that he'd take me home and make sure I was okay. Some people realized what was really happening at this point and told him to fuck off, that MY Dad came and picked me up. This was the start of me turning my life around. Story 2. My father's ex-girlfriend tried to make me take her medication without me knowing. She had kidney problems, was waiting for a transplant, and had to go 3 times a week to dialysis. So she was on a lot of pills and things, was going to psychiatrist too, and there was a lot of food and drink she couldn't take, like Coca-Cola. For her, any kind of soda was a 1 glass once a month kind of thing unless you wanted a trip in an ambulance. And I always have been a huge soda fan. At that time, I had a glass with lunch and another one with dinner. We always had extra bottles. It was cheaper. And I was the only one who drank them at my home. So one day I go to take a sip, and surprise, there's no soda in the fridge. I go for one of the extra bottles, and there's none. That's the first signal something was wrong, because my father was very adamant that the pantry had to be always full. I check again the fridge, and there was a bottle, one of those of 0.75L or so, something we never, ever bought. My father's girlfriend was already a bitch at the time, acted with me as if I was 3 instead of 19. She had managed to upset my sister so much she was living somewhere else, and I had the impression she was trying to do the same with me. Try to fight with me for little things because she knew my father would always take her side. So, when I saw that bottle, I decided I wouldn't touch it. No way, Jose. 2 weeks come by and the bottle is still there, untouched, and even the soda I had bought myself just to sap it in thin air a day after. Finally, my dad asked about the small bottle, saying if it had gone bad or something, or if he could take it. He said all of this while looking at me, because again, I was a soda drinker, and the girlfriend couldn't have almost any because of her kidney. And then she herself all worried and goes, "Oh no, no, you can't drink it. I have put my medicine on it, so it's easier to take without feeling its taste. Do not touch it." I swear I felt how I went pale. This woman was on a shit ton of things, serious things. Anyone could have taken that bottle. And I know my father didn't buy her story, but he just smiled, nodded, and said he would buy me some soda the next day because he had noticed there wasn't any left. So, just to be clear, she couldn't drink soda. Her medicine was with strict dosage because it wasn't just some ibuprofen. And we are talking about somebody who painted her whole water bottle black with messages like, "Don't drink," "Poison," "Girlfriend as propriety," just so she could track properly how much water she took every day. And this woman decided to take her medicine with soda, not telling anyone, in a non-marked bottle. At the same time, all the rest of the soda disappeared. All of it made me start to think and put some things together, like the way I always felt sick after she'd take care of making dinner, and the way she put all the food in the central plate except mine, something that at first I took as a favor to me because I prefer it that way. After that day, I refused to eat anything she cooked for me and wasn't with everyone else's food, and surprisingly or not, I stopped getting sick at night. So maybe she didn't mean to kill me, but she was trying for something for sure. Story 3. I was coming home from a girl's house, who I was sort of seeing at the time. The way home was probably about an hour and a half, give or take, and involved taking 3 buses and a SkyTrain. I ended up leaving her house at about 10:30 to 11 p.m., which wasn't unusual, and on the weekend buses went till about 1 a.m., so I didn't have much to worry about. I got on the first bus to head to the Sky train station, without anything out of the ordinary. Got on the Sky train, and still not much to bat an eye at other than your usual drunk crowd. Now, when I reached the bus terminal after the second bus, there were only a few of us left on the bus, including the sketchy guys sitting in the corner. But as I mentioned, it's late and on the weekend, so just figured that he was just another guy going home. So everyone gets off the bus, and I pick up my stuff and get off the bus. I was probably the last or close to the last person to get off. Around the whole bus loop, they have the stations for buses to pull up and have the departure times posted. So as I am heading over to check how long I would be waiting for, this guy waves me over, sketchy guy from the bus. So I take out my headphones to see what he wants, and he proceeds to ask me if I want to have a smoke with him. I responded saying, "No thanks, I don't smoke." The guy proceeds to take a step towards me and stabs me twice. Completely random and out of nowhere. The guy ends up stabbing me in the heart and in the liver. It was a really surreal feeling. I remember it feeling as if I got punched in the gut and got the wind knocked out of me. It took me a second to realize what happened as I'm hunched over trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I look down and realize I'm bleeding, and not just a little bit. I was losing blood at what I assumed was a pretty quick rate. I just ended up falling to my knees, and without much thought to it, started yelling for help. Luckily for me, there were still some people at the loop waiting for their buses, and rushed over to help me. I remember this one girl who I believe was coming from the local mountain from a ski trip, or something like that, ended up coming down to ground and tried to keep me calm. I guess when the bystanders ended up calling 911, and from what I was told, the time from the call being made to the time I got to the hospital was within 20 minutes. The time for the whole event is kind of jumbled in my head. Next thing I remember, the ambulance is there and are loading me onto a gurney and into the ambulance. I guess the body's natural reaction is to curl up into a ball to keep vitals safe, but the paramedics kept having to tell me to lay flat so they could do their thing, but I remember that being one of the hardest things to do. I remember them asking me personal questions like my name and where I live, just basic things like that, and in my head I knew the answers, but at the time just could not vocalize them. I asked the paramedics in there how bad it was, and if I was going to make it. Of course they don't answer, which at the time frustrated me to no end, but looking back makes total sense, just to not freak me out more than I already was. Last thing I remember the night was being wheeled into the ER and grabbing onto someone's scrubs. It all kind of went dark after that. I ended up having surgery on my kidney and heart, and have a scar going from my collarbone to just below my belly button. I was put into an induced coma for a few days so my body could heal, and ended up spending another week or so in the hospital after waking up. From what I've been told, one of the top cardiosurgeons in our province happened to be at the hospital and was able to push a less severe surgery back to come and do the surgery on me. If the other patient didn't agree to have their surgery postponed, or that surgeon didn't happen to be there that day, there is a good chance I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't say there was a particular moment that I accepted I was going to die, but when the paramedics wouldn't answer my questions, I knew it wasn't a good sign. Story 4. I was 14 and with a few friends, Adam, Jay, and Math, when we decided to buy some marijuana from a kid a couple years older than us we knew from school, Z. We went to his house, made the deal, and went to Jay's house. Some time later, about an hour or so, there's pounding on the door, and Jay looks through the peephole. "Yo, it's Z." I come to answer the door with Jay, and the second the lock was undone, the door flies open. Jay took the entire force of the door and got crushed between it and the wall. Several older guys rush in, and I am pulled out, slammed on the ground, and there's a hand around my throat. As the life is being choked out of me, I gather the choker is Z's older brother. Z had something stolen from him, and we are held responsible. Everything was happening so fast, and the blood wasn't getting my brain, so I can't recall everything clear, but I remember the last 10 seconds. Friende was tending to Jay, who ended up with 5 broken ribs, a broken wrist, broken jaw, and a dislocated knee, while Math ran and got Jay's father's hunting rifle. Z's brother looks at Math holding this gun in the doorway of the house and says, You won't shoot. You'll just watch as I kill this kid." When he looked back down at me, I saw pure psychotic rage in his eyes. Then he screamed and fell off me. Did Math shoot? No. But he's beside me now, waving the gun, and everyone backed off except Z's brother, who is screaming and holding face, and there's blood all over me and him. Then I notice my hand is burning bad. Apparently. I grab my keys out of my pocket, and holding them in my fists like some kind of claw, I slam them into his face. My hand hurts because the keys tore my hand up, but all this blood isn't mine. The entourage of Z grabs a brother, and they retreat quickly, speeding off in their vehicles. Jay and I visit the hospital. He stays for 5 days as they treat his various injuries, and I escape with a small scar on my left index finger from a few stitches. Z's brother was also there, and my family got his injury report directly from his mother. 3 lacerations and a broken cheek that require reconstructive surgery, lost most vision in his right eye, perforated eardrum, 6 shattered teeth, and a cracked jaw. The key to my first car had a 6 millimeters piece of the tip break off and lodged into his jawbone. This happened 18 years ago, was even at another person's house, and I still keep a weapon by the triple-locked, reinforced door for when I answer it. The sound of hard knocking can trigger anxiety attacks sometimes. All in all, I escaped alive and with a minor physical injury, but I still live with the trauma inflicted that day. Story 5. My brother was 6 and I was 9 were playing games in our computer room, which was at the back of our house, when our next-door neighbor, 20-ish male, came over and said he needed us to go to his place for something. We sort of knew him. Our dad had hired him to do some work, and so he wasn't a total stranger to us. So we went. He took us into his bedroom, bound our hands, and tried to stuff socks into our mouths to gag us. He pulled out a knife and tried to threaten us. We didn't understand the weight of the situation even then, because he asked me, "Do you know what this means?" And I joked, "You're going to cook something in the kitchen?" He then grabbed me and pulled me onto the floor and tried to smother me. When he realized I was still getting some breaths in, he switched to strangling me. I remember kind of giving in and telling myself, "It's okay, Mom and Dad are going to give me a good funeral." And then saw my brother standing at the door saying he was scared and he wanted to leave. I begged him to stay, and he did, which is something I will never forget and has made such a hugely positive impact on our relationship. At that point, it clicked in my mind that once I was dead, he was going to kill my brother too. So I started to fight the hardest I had ever fought. I bit and scratched and threw my body around and knocked a large stereo down that made enough noise for his parents to come in. They were home the entire time. They untied us, took us home, and his dad dropped to his knees and begged my mom not to call police. Obviously, she completely ignored his request and called. In the end, they found carving knives, industrial plastic bags, and other equipment to dispose of our bodies in his room. To this day, that is the closest I have ever come to dying.